Thanks for the wonderful introduction, and thank you, Farisha, for kind of being the backbone for us to be able to get this session up and running. So, students, I see what about 112 plus participants on a evening at 6 o'clock. I think it's interesting to know that so many of you are keen about knowing some of the topics that we've kind of handpicked, which we feel are going to be critical for you to land your job. So as Shubha was mentioning, one thing that we've realized is while we've got a lot of applications, we don't want to stop the flow of more and more students applying for our job fair. We've actually kept it open till the 14th of October, which means our job fair is on 13th and 14th. Till the last day, you can continue applying. So if in case you are yet to apply, or if you have friends and colleagues in other colleges who perhaps are not aware of this, please get them onto our Telegram group. Please ensure that you share the links with them as well so that they can also get benefited by this particular job fair that we're doing. Right? While Shubha spoke about the question and answer, and I'm sure there are going to be lots of questions which are specific about the job fair. I think park it for now. We are going to have, and I'm going to be again talking to all of you day after tomorrow. That session is absolutely open only and only for questions. We are not going to give you any doses of gyan, so as to speak. That is specifically kept for each one of you to ask your queries around the job fair. Tomorrow, in fact, we are having another session at 6 o'clock, wherein you'll get to hear from the organizations and the recruitment team from those organizations about specifically what exactly are they looking for when they're hiring from the student community, right? So let me just share my screen and I'll give you a quick overview of what I wanted to speak to you today about. Shubha, just let me know once you can view my screen. It says my screen sharing is paused.
It is loading. Yeah, I can't see your screen.
Now?
It's loading. Not yet. Pavish, you want me to share the file with me? I can.
Let me do that. Yeah.
Bhavish, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Sorry, you must have it now.
All right.
So while Shubha gets the screen share up and running, I just wanted to get a quick context from each one of you in terms of, and then use the chat window, please, the next 45 minutes, since you guys are not able to kind of speak thanks to the number of people that we have. What you can do is use the chat window to ask questions or your suggestions or comments as and when we move along. Yeah, Shubha, we can see your screen. If you can just go on the slideshow mode. Perfect. So as I was saying, right, that we have handpicked some of the specific topics that actually will help you to understand the kind of world that we're getting into, right? And that's very, very important for each one of you, considering that most of you are going to get into the corporate world for the first time. Some of you might have joined a couple of startups, a couple of organizations through your internship and so on and so forth, but most of you are still new to understanding. So what we are going to do in the next 45 minutes or so is largely walk you through how the world has changed, right? And with the advent of COVID, all of us know that things have completely taken a transformation. Everything around our life has changed, and accordingly, the world has changed completely as well in the corporate side of things. So I'm going to largely focus on the corporate side of things with respect to how has the Bani world taken precedence to what are some of the aspects that I feel is important for each one of you to kind of navigate through to understand how would you be able to make a mark in the first organization that you get into. So with that, Shubha, if you can move to the next screen.
Okay.
Just enter. Yeah, one more enter.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so quick, while Shubha's introduced me, I'll also want to take a quick 30 seconds. So I come with about 20 years of experience. I've worked with several large organizations, namely GE, IBM, Capgemini, Jana Bank, Wipro, Indegene, CGI, prior to taking over my current responsibility at Aspire for Her, where I'm leading the education initiatives and talent acquisition. So most of the conversation this evening is going to be around my experience around how I have been able to work with a lot of student bodies to understand what exactly is the corporates looking at when they look at a student from different segments of our region. Right. So with that, let's get cracking. Shubha? All right. So I was reading this very interesting article about a couple of years back, and that largely spoke about how we're drawing esoteric parallels between two worlds. And I'm sure some of you are religious, some of you are not, but they say that in the scriptures it was written thousands of years ago that soon a day will come when AI will take precedence, where perhaps humans, if they don't start interacting or complementing the services of AI is artificial intelligence for those who are not aware, we will soon get into a state of discomfort, in a state of a zone where we perhaps may not exist. So it's extremely important for us to understand the world that we live in, and these three rectangles that you see are largely going to talk about some of the characteristics of the three different eras that we've lived upon. So 1980s, your parents must be working in this phase where it was called SPOD. SPOD stood for a world that was steady, a world that was predictable, a world that was ordinary, and a world that was definite. Largely meaning that everybody had a pretty steady job. Things around them were predictable. Our parents have, you would know that they have worked in one organization from the time they left college till the time they retired. It was an ordinary life, not demeaning the life, but it was far less ordinary than what we are going through right now. Then came the era of VUCA. Uh, all of you, I'm sure, must have heard of this VUCA term, which was coined in the early 2000, where the British or this US Navy, sorry, had coined this term. What happened due to a lot of economic factors, a lot of industrialization issues, is that the steady world or the world that was in the spot phase of things now converted into VUCA. Now, VUCA world was largely volatile, which meant economic conditions, or let's say Cold War between two countries, or certain economic restrictions coming into picture between certain regions could create an impact on the overall society, on the overall financial aspects of what the industry is doing from a region perspective. The world was uncertain, it was chaotic, it was ambiguous, right? Largely meaning, I'm not going to deep dive into the VUCA world because we have all read in our textbooks about what VUCA stands for. Largely meant that the world that was steady is now volatile. Changes in small policies in countries will lead to stock markets falling or going up depending on what the situation of the country is. Likewise, it will have an impact on jobs of the country. Likewise, it will have an impact on how students keep graduating and keep getting deployed to different organizations. Now, just before COVID hit us, right, we already knew that about 5 years back, and in 2018 onwards, I think the predictions of a lot of leaders started happening that AI is going to take over a lot of jobs, right? And that's when the world of Bani came into existence. I don't know how many of you know Bani or how many of you have understood Bani. For those who don't, here is Bani. Just one more click, Shubha. Yep. So Bani was a term that was coined in 2020, and we live in the world of Bani right now. It stands for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. So I'll just talk about a little more in detail in the next slide. Yep. So as they keep saying, I mean, VUCA is dead. Bani is here to stay. Bani is largely characterized by the 4 letters, which we've already spoken about. Shubha, if you can keep clicking. Yep. So what is brittle? Now, B of Bani is brittle. Brittle typically means a world where nothing is protected, right? We have heard so many stories of large organizations, and I obviously don't want to name organizations, but organizations that are known to be most respected for a long time. They have started looking at laying off their employees, right? Which meant the world has become very brittle. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. What's worked for us in the past has started collapsing, and COVID was a classic example, right? All of us have been through COVID. We have seen what it can do to kind of completely transform the way we live, the way we work, the way we do everything around us, right? Anxious, again, I mean, again, if you look at the COVID, the world has become, after the advent of COVID, the world has become very anxious. We are in a state of being in a time when nobody knows, to be honest, what's going to be the future of work, right? Every leader is trying to decipher what is going to work for them, which model works for them. You would have heard that some of the organizations are talking about having a flexi environment, which is a hybrid environment of some days in office and some days work from home. Startups continue to believe in the aspect of saying that, can we continue to work completely remotely, because that will save us costs from an infrastructure perspective. We don't have to take an office. Our employees don't have to travel, thereby saving costs and whatnot. Some of them continue to feel and project that, I'm sorry, but cultures are not meant in Zoom calls, right? So culture is only possible if human beings interact, human beings meet each other and start working. So that anxiousness levels continue to persist. And till date, nobody has an answer to how do we get rid of this anxiousness? How do we ensure that we build a camaraderie of sorts which will actually work for the benefit of all employees as well as all organizations? Now, the non-linearity part is largely to do with having no linkage, right? Earlier, it was very simple, and I'll give you a classic example of talent supply chain, for example, right? It meant that if there are a lot of students who are graduating year on year from colleges, and the demand for, let's say, the students are high, everybody will get placed. So it was a directly proportional linearity equation. Now, if you look at the talent equation, not just in our country, but across the globe, and I can tell you examples from several other organizations as well, that there is demand. So any of you who feel that jobs are in a scarcity mode, there are no jobs, there are a lot of people losing jobs, and thus we will all struggle, the answer is no. There are lots of job options. There are lots of organizations that are hiring. If you look at LinkedIn right now, there are 14.5 million jobs that are open for getting picked up. On the flip side, there is a lot of supply as well, which means as more and more students are graduating, they are finding it difficult to find placement. They are finding it difficult to get into organizations, because organizations, again, are not hiring on the other side. So what it largely means is the demand and the supply are not talking to each other. Classic case in point, a company who has a lot of requirements is also laying off people. The reason being, it could perhaps have requirements in, let's say, AI, ML, or cybersecurity, and it's laying off people in Java or HTML or CSS or any other aspects, right? So which means that the talent supply equation is absolutely non-linear, and everybody's still trying to figure out how do we cope with the Bani world. Incomprehensible is a classic case of All this while in the VUCA world, in the sport world as well, we trying to use data for every decision making. And that's very, very critical, right? If you have to decide how to make more profits in your personal entrepreneurship journey or in your business or in whatever you do, you look at data, you look at past trend. Because Bani is so new, we don't have enough data. We don't have enough data to kind of gather knowledge from the data and kind of interpret or analyze the solutions. So net, we are in a place where everybody's confused. Everybody's trying to grapple with the reality. And we are all trying to work out together, how can we survive in this Bani world? Now, in the next few slides, what I've done is I've tried to take down some points of how can we survive in the Bani world, which is actually going to help us. I mean, I wouldn't say it's going to completely admonish what Bani effect will come into picture, but at least it will help us be at a stronger place than we are right now. Shubha, next slide. Okay, so I've broken this down to 4 slides, largely talking about the brittle part of it, anxiousness, non-linearity, as well as incomprehensible. So for every element of the Bani world, how is it that we work towards ensuring that our talent capability is such that we are able to cope up with that whole issue? So if something is brittle, what do we need? We need to have more capacity. When I say capacity, and Shubha, you can just click a couple of times, in fact 3 times. So when we talk about brittleness, we talk about capacity building. Right? And capacity building in an individual perspective is, how do you equip yourself with more and more skills, right? How do you ensure that it's not just one particular skill that you're good at? Can you start upskilling yourself, reskilling yourself, build that learnability quotient to know more and more? And there are lots of avenues that are available at your disposal, which perhaps wasn't there in my case, at least when I started my career. Right now, you have several platforms which offer you a lot of training programs. We, in fact, if you look at the Telegram group, we've been giving you lots of free training programs, and that's only with the intent to bring you up to speed, with the intent to ensure that once you get into that interview room with your future recruiter, you are well placed, right? The next aspect that all of us will have to be looking at is the resilience, or how do we ensure that we don't start feeling terrible about where we are. If we have gone through COVID and if we have survived COVID, I don't think there is anything else that humankind cannot survive. Which also means that most of the times we all come out with a lot of plans, right? And this is a time when perhaps we'll have to come up with plan B, plan C, and keep some options open for ourselves. I mean, I have been a big proponent of saying that, and I've come across a lot of students who, for example, learn a particular skill set and they feel that they are the best at that particular skill set and they don't want to do anything else beyond that. Now is not the time for that. So if you are, for example, good at Java, and the company that's willing to hire you is placing you on, let's say, a project that requires you to learn Python from scratch, don't say no for that, because that's going to be your plan B, right? So which is going to be your alternative to ensure that you survive this entire atmosphere that we are all in. And the third element, which is going to be extremely critical and important, that it's not a rat race, which means you will have to stop worrying about competing with your team members. The time has come where you need to collaborate, where you need to ensure that you work together hand in hand to help each other and move forward. And that's the only way all of us can actually survive the brittleness that Bani brings to the table. Moving on. Okay, now what do we do when we are anxious, right? And when we are anxious, it's but obvious that we need to have empathy. We need to have mindfulness, and coincidentally today happens to be the day when we are celebrating the whole concept of mindfulness, of how important it is for us to ensure that our state of well-being, our mental well-being, is extremely important, right? And how do we do that is basically to start focusing on your health, start focusing on ensuring that job is just a part of your life. It is not your life. And I can definitely say so, because there have been lots of times in my career where I have gone berserk with respect to not focusing on my life and only worrying about, Shubha, if you can go back. Yep. Shubha is interested in playing with the mouse pad.
No, I was
So,
just trying to let people in. So
so yeah. So basically, what's important. And what I'm trying to say is that while it's very, very critical for each one of you to be very serious about what you do, in that whole bargain, don't forget about enjoying your life. Don't forget about ensuring that you're not working so hard that you forget to relax, that you forget to enjoy, that you forget to keep a hobby, because that's, unless you have a healthy mind and healthy body, you will not be able to be productive. You can work 16 days, you all are young, you can work 16 17 hours in a day to impress your managers in the first 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. The fourth year onwards, your body will not take that toll. So ensure that you start focusing on that from now on. uh, Empathy is required. So as I said, that it's not a time when you have to fight the race and start looking at how do I beat my fellow colleague, how do I beat my other team members. It's mostly to do with how do I work together, how do I create that culture of empathy where I listen to my colleagues. If somebody's feeling left out, how do I hold his or her hand to ensure that they learn from me and I learn from them in the meanwhile. Last is a very, very interesting point that I picked up from some of the readings, which is to embrace anxiety, right? All the times we feel that if things are not working for me, it's a sad state to be in, right? But how can you use that as a catalyst to feel that, okay, this is not worked out, but can this particular situation, it cannot go worse from there. So how do I use that situation of anxiety, of anxiousness, to be able to innovate more, or to be starting to do something differently in our career to be able to get where I want to reach? Okay, the non-linearity. Yeah, so I explained you what is non-linearity, right? Non-linearity is largely about having a complex world where we don't know if X will be equal to Y, right? Because today X may not be equal to Y, X could be equal to Y for some organizations. For some organizations, it may not work, which calls for a high level of adaptability. And adaptability is always about keeping your minds open, keeping your options open, ensuring that you don't restrict yourself from saying that, you know what, I've done computer science from a prestigious institute, so I will only join an organization which offers me X amount of salary and X amount of pay and a particular technology, right? Not the time. I think the time is right now to be adaptable, to be looking at a good brand where you get some bit of stability, where you get a lot of learning, and your time will come when you have already worked in an organization for a little while. Then you can start picking up certain skills. So if you want to garner your interest in, let's say, an AI/ML, and the role that you're getting today could be a backend operations kind of a role, don't hesitate in taking that, because there are lots of takers for a specific role. While I did tell you that there are 14.5 million jobs on LinkedIn and many more in Naukri as well, there are 3x or 4x number of students who are also waiting for that particular role. So for every one role, there are, if not more, at least 100 people fighting for it. So now is not the time for you to start being picky and choosy. The time is right now for you to pick up what comes your way and for you to be able to make the best out of the current situation. Right? Okay, we can move to the last part. Now, incomprehensible, what I meant here was largely to do with the availability of, or the non-availability of knowledge, right? Which meant that we don't have enough knowledge, we don't have enough data points, we don't have enough information of what works and what does not work. What worked in the past is not working right now. And I gave you the example of the whole work situation, right? For some organizations, complete work from home is working beautifully. For the other organizations, it's not working at all. So everybody is trying to still grapple with the situation, grapple with the understanding of what should I do if I am the CEO of the organization, if I'm the CHR of the organization, how should I keep my minds open to be able to work in both the modes. From a student perspective and from your perspective, what you need to do is to keep your options. I've already told you, keep your options open. You need to be as transparent as possible, right? There is no harm in you to be discussing with your recruiters, with your potential employers on things that you're not, which means that if in case, let's say you are more comfortable in doing a hybrid role, which means going to office on a couple of days and working from home on the other days, please keep your options open. Please be transparent. Please ensure that you don't say things which are perhaps not the right way of looking at things, which means if you are not willing to go to office on 5 days, don't apply for such roles, because it's not going to work out for you. The other important thing is that we'll have to understand that we don't have all the answers. And if I were to extrapolate this in your, let's say, a job interview, it's absolutely yes, or it's absolutely okay to say that you don't know the answer. And I'll tell you from my own experience, I've come across several students in the last 20 years of my career, wherein a lot of students, a lot of leaders also, in fact, try to feel that if I don't answer a question that a recruiter or an interviewer has asked me, they will reject me. The answer is no. As long as you are comfortable in saying that you may not know this answer, but you'd be more than happy to kind of come back after reading up on that, it's going to be acceptable. But do not try to fake an answer which you don't know. Don't try to make up an answer. Right. With that, I will move on to the last slide, which largely talks about some of the tips of what I feel is going to stand all of us in good stead. Yeah, you can just move to the next slide. Right. Just the 5 clicks. Okay. So now what is it that I should do? I mean, enough of gyan from my end with respect to how the world is changing, how organizations are changing, how the job market is going to become difficult, how is it going to make life more and more challenging for each one of us. Now, here are 5 pointers that I feel are going to be extremely critical for each one of you. Even if you pick up, let's say, 1 or 2 practices from these 5, I feel that you're going to be in a much better position than where you are today. 1, viewing challenges or opportunities, right? There is nothing that you can do about the situation. So rather than crying about where we are, why is it that I am going through a situation wherein organizations are not hiring? Why did I have to graduate in this year or the next year when the campus hiring is going to be slow? You will need to start looking at this challenge as an opportunity that allows you some time to get more and more skilled. An opportunity where if you have not got an offer from your campus, if you have graduated last year or this year, it has given you more time to start going through several different training programs to upskill yourself and give yourself that time. And all of us know that when we are in college doing our engineering in the 7th and 8th semester, or if you're a B schooler or from a BCom cohort, there are lots of exams and assignments, and it doesn't allow us to come out of our books, right? Which meant your skills are not to the tune of what the organization expects. And this is the time when you need to start upskilling yourself, start looking at LinkedIn for that matter, create your brand, create your persona there, start being a part of not just Aspire for Her, but a lot of other organizations also that keep giving you more and more webinars, which are absolutely free of cost. So you're not paying anything, but you're also getting to upskill yourself. Don't think of it as a waste of time by listening to somebody who comes with experience. Think of it as some inputs that will help you in getting to where you want to get. The second aspect is embracing your weakness, right? And this is not just for each one of you, this is also for leadership. And largely right now we continue to do a lot of sessions with our with leadership across the board as well, is that today's time has changed. And in my years, at least when I started my career, whatever the boss said is God's truth, right? And you cannot challenge that. Now the leadership has changed absolutely to the tune of ensuring that everybody's transparent, which means that you will have to start ensuring that you speak your mind, which means as and when you get into an organization, or if you start your entrepreneurship journey, or for that matter, even if you continue to study and do your post-graduation, you will need to start embracing some of your weaknesses and not try to hide them, which means understand that you have weaknesses, understand that it's possible that not everybody can have all the strengths that are there. But how do I take those weaknesses? How do I take that constructive criticism, which is the second point, the third point, and try and keep developing myself to become a more and more subtle employee which is going to work in the favor of the organization as well as my own benefit. The fourth point is, all this while we've been told, and this is something which all of us have grown up on, saying that always look at the end result. Before you start a journey, ensure that there is a goal that you have in mind. The answer is absolutely yes. So I'm not trying to challenge that status quo. What I'm trying to say here is, while it's very, very important to start or have a short-term, mid-term, long-term plan of where you want to see yourself in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, what's also important is to focus on the process of how you get there, right? A lot of times what we do, and especially with students, I've mentored quite a lot of students, what I feel is they start trying to copy a senior or somebody else that they emulate, and they want to start looking at how do I get to where I want to get 5 years down the line. What they forget is that to get to 5 years down the line, there are small steps that you have to keep taking throughout the course of those 5 years. So in this time and age, it's very, very important for you to start focusing on the process, start looking at short-term goals, and all those short-term goals will take you to the long-term plan that you have carved out for yourself. Last but not the least, I think this is the most important aspect and kind of features in every discussion that I have, everything that I speak, which is going to be the learnability quotient, right? Whatever you do, don't stop learning. And I still remember when I was in Wipro, I had an opportunity to meet Mr. Azim Premji. He was 78 years old then, right? And what he does is, that I was told also by a lot of my other leaders, is that he always carries a pen and a notebook wherever he goes. What he does with that pen and notebook is, every time he's either in his car or going around everywhere, traveling the country, he starts looking at everything around and notes down 10 or 12 things that he's learned new on that particular day. And when I got a chance to speak to him, I also understood that how important is learning, right? I mean, today, if you look at Azim Premji's career, he's one of the biggest names in the industry that we can think of. I mean, I started feeling that why is he even looking at learning? I mean, what is there for him to learn? He's done everything, he's been there, done that of sorts. But what I came out of the discussion was that even he feels that learning never ends. So, and especially for you who are just about to start your career, still in your final semesters, or some of you have graduated last year, it's extremely critical to ensure that you never, ever, ever stop learning, that you will never be 100%. And it's very important for you to realize that it's not important to be 100%. What's important is to continuously sharpen your skills, continuously ensure that I am picking up newer avenues of learning every day. Every particular thing that you do, you're picking up some aspects from every session that you engage yourself in. And with that, I will stop my monologue. I am hoping to get a lot of questions from your end. The questions, try and keep this to your job readiness. If you want to ask anything about this particular topic that we've spoken about, or anything but the job fair. Right? The job fair, as I said, we are keeping a separate session altogether day after tomorrow, where we're going to talk about the job fair. For today, I'm happy to answer if you have any specific questions on how to look at your career, or anything to do with the Bani world, or if it's any specific aspect that I spoke about, which you want to know a little more detailed aspect on. So thank you so much. And I'm looking at my chat window where there's nothing. So
yes, we are expecting some questions. All right. So the chat window is open for all of you. So anybody who's joined, please go ahead and ask questions. Like Bhavesh said, we're going to be having a Q&A session. So yes. So is really AI ML eradicating job opportunities?
Shri Veena, a very interesting question. I kind of love that question. I didn't expect this to come, but what do you think, Veena, or for that matter, anybody else on the group? I mean, all of us have been talking about robots coming into picture, and I can give you classic cases. I was zapped when in fact 2018, when I met a CEO of a very large organization. At that point in time, he had, and I won't want to name him, but he had a session with about 350 plus HR leaders. In 2018, he said HR will be dead very, very soon because robots will take over that role. Likewise, we've been listening to a lot of aspects around how robots are taking over, right? Very soon, I mean, at least in a lot of startups, we are already listening to stories of I don't know, Shubha, if you've been to Bangalore, there's this particular restaurant where I'm told the robots are the ones who are actually taking orders. I know for sure there is a specific restaurant in Bangalore again where they don't have servers at that hotel. You order from an app and the food comes to your table through a railway track of sorts. So which means,
Platform.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
called
the
platform.
platform part of it. So there are lots of things that are happening in and around the world. You must have seen banks have reduced their staff so much so that a lot of times there are self-help kiosks which are replacing human beings. So in every aspect of our career, our job, you will see robots taking over, and this is just the beginning. 5 years down the line, you will see how AI, ML, and other relevant aspects will take over most of our jobs. So again, my question back to you, Veena, is what do you think? Okay, Veena is saying robotics will rule. Yes, they will rule, but can they replace human beings? The answer is no. And if you look at the World Skills Report as well, you will be astounded to hear that while we will lose out on a lot of jobs, and I'm talking about millions of jobs will go away in the near future because robots will take over, right? What it'll also do is it'll create 2x the number of jobs for human beings, which means that we will have to, and that can only happen. And as I was saying in the first slide of the drawing the esoteric parallels of robots taking over and humans not being surviving, the only way humans can survive is if we start complementing and working with AI together. So don't be scared of AI. Just start looking at how do you work with AI, make your life better. And a lot of AI around us have already made our lives better. You look at Flipkart, Amazon, Blinkit, Zepto, Lenskart. I mean, they are all startups who are actually making our life better, right? Which means you can sit at home and order your groceries. You don't even have to step out. But what's important for you to start looking at what are some of the other skill sets that human can continue taking up and moving on to the next one. So Veena, to answer your question in a nutshell, AI ML will eradicate jobs, but it will also give way to a lot many more jobs for humans to take over. So your transactional routine work will go out of the window. Things where you need to start thinking and bring in your human intelligence will come into picture. Robotics will rule, how to upskill our
We
knowledge.
have one question. What kind of requirements do you observe as an HR for a fresher?
I'm looking at some other questions that are above that as well. So there is something which Kanchan has asked, which is how to upskill our knowledge. Kanchan, I've mentioned that there are lots of free resources available. With the internet coming into picture, it's learning is in your palms, right? I mean, you just have to pick up your mobile phone, search for several websites. If you join our community in Aspire for Her, join our Telegram group, we will continue to bring you a lot of resources, a lot of skills, a lot of webinars to keep you abreast of what's happening in the industry. How to keep upscaling? You have the likes of a lot of other websites like LinkedIn. I don't have to name them, but there are lots of other websites also, Coursera, and you know some of them, where you can actually log in, continue upskilling your knowledge in the area of interest. And it could be AI, ML. We've introduced you to IBM Skills Build not long ago, right? All of you have access to IBM Skills Build. There are 76,000 plus courses. So if you want to build your career in AI ML, keep doing those courses. If you want to upskill yourself from a communication standpoint, pick up some of those courses, and all of them are free. So upskilling is the easiest thing to do. All that it needs, Kanchan, right now is your time. It doesn't cost you anything. It needs your time. You need to start looking at how do you invest that time in yourself so that you can become better in times to come. Yamini is asking certificate will come. Yamini, you can ask that question in the Telegram group. Certificates will come, or if you've completed your course, it will be done. Kanchan again is asking how to get more opportunities. Kanchan, again, keep upscaling yourself, build a brand on LinkedIn, keep yourself active in a lot of communities. And if you work with Aspire for Her, we will ensure that we will bring you a lot of corporates who want to hire, and that's the only way you can get more and more exposure to opportunities. Monica, thank you for answering that. AI can just automate repetitive tasks. Great answer. I think, yeah, AI will only transform repetitive tasks. Ultimately, human intelligence is going to overrule anything that robots can do. Kalyani is asking, what kind of requirements do you observe as a HR for a fresher? Kalyani, very, very simply put, you need to understand the organization that you're getting into, right? And what I'm trying to mean is, do not apply for the sake of it. What happens today, and as an HR, I have also seen that the moment you open up a particular job role, you get 1,000 applications in less than an hour, right? And when you try and talk to a few of those students, they don't even know where they've applied. So it's very, very important that you don't randomly apply to everything that's out there. You look at the job description, whether you fit the job description or not. And if you think you fit the job description, understand if the organization's culture is what exactly, whether it's aligned to your cultural mindset as well or not. If not, don't apply. But most important for us right now as interviewers is to understand whether the student that I'm hiring understands and knows the company that I am in. So that's one. Two, learnability quotient, right? We've already spoken enough about learnability. So as long as you demonstrate in a job interview that you are somebody who's willing to learn, you are somebody that and accept your mistakes, which means that if you don't know something, tell the recruiter that you don't know this particular answer, but you are more than happy to continuously upskill yourself and learn more and more. So learnability quotient is the second aspect. Third aspect is the confidence. And while it may sound very small, but I feel that the reason why, and I've hired across the globe. I mean, I've seen that students in India, and don't quote me, students in India, while they might have excellent scores from a academics perspective, having said that, students who are studying abroad, they may not have great scores, but what works for them brilliantly well is the confidence that they bring into the table. For some reason or the other, we feel that because we can't speak in English well, we'd rather be quiet. And that's not the right way to approach. English language can be attained. There is no way you need to be shy of asking questions. There is no way you should be shy of putting your hand up when there is a question in your mind. So demonstrate your confidence. So confidence, communication, learnability skills, and the culture of the organization that you're applying. I mean, I would say these four are top of mind recall for me on uh, how to get jobs as a fresher. Uh, how to attain jobs in online interview, Gayatri, I think it's a repeat of what I've just told you. How much weight communication have in technical interview? Nishant, put yourself in the recruiter's shoes, right? As I said, I mean, every recruiter on a given day, and as we speak, on our job fair day, there'll be recruiters who will just spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes with you. In 5 minutes, can I judge you correctly? The answer is no, right? What will happen is human biases will come into picture. Human biases are largely about how is the person talking to me in the first 5 minutes? Is the person confident? Is the person happy to be on video and is demonstrating examples of what he or she has done in the past? So it's very, very important that you prepare. I won't say prepare a pitch and don't do rote learning. So don't mug up your answers, but also ensure that you have at least created a skeletal structure of what you want to talk about, right? In an interview, mostly the questions will be around introducing yourself, about how do you see yourself in 3, 5, 7 years down the line, about talk about a specific project that I've done in my past and what is your role in that. And you can only, I mean, ask handful number of questions. So try and create a structure. And yes, communication will have a very, very important role because I mean, if all of you understand Hindi, जो दिखता है वही बिकता है. Why are layoffs, Sriveena again? Why are layoffs occurring due to AI, ML, or recession? See, layoffs are happening because of variety of reasons. The layoffs are largely happening because of Bani, right? And as Bani, you would have heard that nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. While everything was going fine, all of a sudden you could hear what's happening in Israel today, right? And that has taken a backseat. Now, all you know, because of what's happening in Israel, stock markets have already plummeted. With stock markets plummeting, a lot of organizations will stop investing in future projects. And the world has become so hostile, so incomprehensible. The eye of Bani is that nobody knows. And tomorrow, all you know, the boom can come back into picture. How I see the talent world at least coming into shape is come March or April of 2024, things are going to fall back into place because most of the downturn that we had, which is basically owing to the large number of hiring that most organizations did last year from campuses. I think that's why this year the campus hiring scene is going to be a little lesser from most of the organizations. Having said that, next year is going to be bouncing back to our best place. When we look at the interview mail, sir, anything to do with interview, we will have all the questions answered day after tomorrow. Next process of job again, day after tomorrow. English language important. Vikram, English language, I won't say it's important, but it's critical. I mean, what's not important is to be able to communicate in a flowery language. What's important is to be able to express your what you're trying to convey, right? I mean, I can have some bit of articles issue in my grammar or things like that. And just to give you a spin-off, at your age, when I was about 23, 24 years old, Wipro could potentially have been my first job. And I flunked it because I could not utter a single sentence of English back in those days, right? Which meant that I had to actually work very, very hard on improving my English language, my communication, my confidence. And I've been through that. And the fact that I've been through that phase of my life when I'm a 24-year-old graduate willing to look for jobs and cannot communicate a single sentence in English, it was a big struggle for me in the beginning. But then I worked upon myself, I honed my skills. And if I could do that, I'm sure all of you will be much better placed than where I was back in those days. So English is important, but what's more important is how can you convey your message in a crisp manner? Multifaceted training means going from Java to Python or from tech to project management to something else. The answer is yes, Mahima. Not just Java to Python, right? Today, it only means is that you need to be having trust in the system, which means if the organization that you have trusted with your career with, if they feel that you are more suited into a Python project than a Java project, then go with that instinct. Go with the trust that your manager, your organization is more experienced in knowing your hidden talents. So don't restrict yourself in a particular skill set. Anything that you get is a good start to begin with. And once you start working on a particular skill set, you will then have a variety of options to pick and choose from within the organization that you join. How did you improve your English speaking, Gayatri? Had to do a lot. What worked for me, mostly it could sound funny, but what worked for me mostly was the element of talking to myself. And I, at least in the beginning, I had some mentor of mine that I had back those days told me that the only person that you, and okay, the problem with me was not that I was bad at English. If you ask me to write, I could have written fancier essays than anybody else in my class. The problem was largely to do with my ability to talk in front of somebody else, my ability to feel how would this person feel if I make grammatical errors. And as I said, I mean, being in my last year of college and still not able to talk in English was a big taboo, even in those days, right? What I had to do was I started talking to myself, looking at the mirror. I started reading a lot of newspapers. For a lot of us come with different kinds of learning capabilities, right? You would have heard that some of us learn a lot by reading. Some of us learn a lot by visuals, which is by watching movies or videos or whatnot. So listen to podcasts, look at videos if videos are a right medium for you to learn. For me, what worked was very simply put, and it could again be funny, very simply put, watch English movies. I mean, all my life till 24, I watched English movies and understood nothing because of the thick accent, because of what they were doing. I could only see people swishing their swords and their guns and whatnot. I understood nothing. But then I started watching English movies to try and understand their thick accent, and that helped. So read newspapers if that helps you. Read novels, read magazines, uh, listen to podcasts, listen to some old timers like me, and a lot of things. So lots of thinking in English. Monica, very good to say, but difficult to implement. But you're right. I mean, as long as, see, today it's all about what you try to convey. And the reason why we are so comfortable in our mother tongue is because in the back of our mind, we are consciously talking to ourselves before the answer comes out of our tongue. So if you can actually start thinking in English, nothing like it. How can you get the job in Aspire for her? I'm assuming the link is out there. The link has been posted on this chat window as well. Apply for the job link. There are 11 organizations now that we have. So you can apply to as many as 6 job roles. And once you do that, I'm sure you will get an interview and hopefully make the mark.
Bhavesh, we have one question, I think. As a biochemistry student, I got some recruitments from pharmaceutical companies, but they're expecting different things apart from our study. They're coming from biochemist, but expecting us to do different roles, which is not really taught to us. In that kind of situation, should I apply or not? Bhavesh, am I audible? Bhavesh, am I audible? Students, am I audible? Could you please? Okay, great. I think, all right, we just wait for Bhavesh to join. We will definitely take one more question while Bhavesh is joining us. All right, thank you. So we will take one last question. Somebody had posted a question about biochemistry. We'll wait for Bhavesh to join us. And meanwhile, if you have any other questions, do let us know. We have, okay, until Bhavesh joins us, we have another Q&A session on Thursday. And that will cater to all your questions related, HR related questions that you might have. It will be done during that time. And see, if you're 21, 22, 22, 23, 24 pass out, you can apply. And tomorrow's session is also going to, we are going to have all the participating organizations who are going to come and, address your queries. So anybody and everybody, it's an experience who have applied for jobs in the group. Please do come and be a part of the sessions, because we're going to have different organizations come and address. Any questions that you have regarding an organization, this is the platform. So tomorrow at 6 o'clock, same time, same link, please do come and attend. So Bhavesh is there. Bhavesh, could you hear us? Okay, he is having some issues with connecting his audio. So sorry, I think Bhavesh is having some issues with connecting to his audio. Okay, but I really want to take an opportunity and not miss that particular question. This is my own personal experience, not that I'm an expert. But as a biochemistry student, like Bhavesh said, explore your horizons. If you are a biochemistry student and if you're exploring into a related field or even an unrelated field, that is your backup plan. So you should ideally not be missing out of this opportunity if you are getting as a student. Keep that skills handy, learn that skills, because it might be helpful for you in the future. So please go ahead and apply. There is a reason why they have, they have shortlisted you and telling you to apply for jobs. I see they see that you have a potential, Kalyani. You should go ahead and apply for it. Whether it works or not, but you have given it a shot. So it might be in your favor in future. So do not miss any kind of such opportunities, right? So thank you. I think Bhavesh is having some issues with, connecting back. His audio is not working. We look forward to you joining us tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Like I said, we have all the organizations who are coming in together. They are going to be answering all your queries for any applications that you have done through our job fair platform. So be there tomorrow. And for any questions that you might have for an HR, we have a Q&A session with HR. This is only going to be questions on the 12th. So you are well prepared for your 13 and 14 job fair, right? So with that, I would like to take a leave and thank you all for joining so much today. I hope the session was useful to all of you. We look forward to you joining us tomorrow. Thank you and have a good evening. Thank you, everyone.